You know, I can't judge somebody who puts themselves into a coma so they don't have to live it. I just don't think it's the right way. I don't think you actually become a better person by not living for a while, which is what they're choosing to do. It's just better not to be alive for a while. And I really feel sorry for people like that. But it seemed like when my mom said it, it was like I was stupid for even struggling so much. And I was angry to put myself gratuitously through more suffering when I could have just taken Valium.
Have you spoken to her about it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm really open with my mom. And her main thing is that, well, first of all, they were very different circumstances, which I always have to take into consideration. So this is my mom, and her daughter is in a situation where she can do nothing to help her. That is insane. I understand that. And, like, I understand that would make her go insane. And so she needed help. Like, she was having heart pressure issues and needed help. And, you know, she could go to the doctor that she trusted and get that recommendation. Whereas I was in prison with doctors who yanked people's teeth out like it was candy. Like, I did not trust them. I did not trust what they would give me. I did not trust what the other prisoners would do to me if I were on it. And the other thing was that I kept thinking, like, I am not, Hunger Games moment. I am not going to let this change me. I've never taken medication before for something that I've gone through, and God damn it, I played on a broken foot for a month before I went and got the doctor looked at it. Like, it was, no, I'm not that person. That's not who I am. I'm going to deal with this, and I'm going to suck it up, and so anyway, got sidetracked there.
Don't even worry about getting sidetracked.
Your question was on the first months in prison. I was in segregation, like I said. So I was very much like everyone knew who I was, and I knew who no one was. Very fishbowl. I didn't know how the prison worked. No one told me how anything worked. I did eventually get assigned to a room where I had a cellmate, though. And, God, you think high school's bad. You think that's bad. Trying to navigate the social structure of prison is a struggle. God, like, I don't even know where to begin to tell you how hard it is. Because there's so many contradictory elements. Like, there's this sense of solidarity because we're all in this together and we're all suffering through this shit together. And then there's I do not trust any of you ever. I think that all of you are lying and are only out for your best interest, and everyone thinks that about everyone. So everyone's in this all together, and yet everyone is at each other's throats. Everyone against everyone, and we're all in one for all. And it's this contradictory thing that I really struggled to come to terms with, because when people started out being really interested in me, I didn't understand that a large part of it had to do with the fact that I was on TV. And furthermore, I really wanted some sense of familiarity. Like, I really struggled to find friends. And I made some friends. Most people, I mean, like I said, most people try to skate by through prison living as little as possible just so the time goes quickly. So if you can take medication to be out of it the entire time, That's a common strategy, a very common strategy. Also, soap operas, very common strategy.
What were some of the things that you did to cope?
To cope?
Mm-hmm.
So what really drove me crazy about it, especially when I was waiting and waiting and waiting longer than I thought I was going to have to wait, and then I got the document that said, oh yeah, by the way, like the police have a year before they have to charge you, and I was just like, what? I'm pretty sure that's not how it works. Can you please explain to me like what you just said to me again?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, the police have a year before they have to charge you. So I get to live a year of my life while you're deciding whether or not to charge me. I have to lose that year of my life because you're thinking about charging me. Okay. And there was a lot of that. There was a lot of like being absolutely stunned, but you don't have any choice in the matter. Mm-hmm. You just are told this and go back to your cell now. So it was incredibly debilitating, like just psychologically. Like everything that I thought the way the world worked, nothing. Like you are nothing. So coping. I got really obsessed with making each day count, which sounds like really cliche. But I would get really angry with myself if I felt like I had not made the day worth living, because then I would feel like I had just lost a day of my life, and I hated the idea of them taking my life away. And so, well, at the very beginning, I spent a lot of my time reassuring my family members. I think, so I didn't know this at the time, but they were confiscating all of my letters and photocopying them before they sent them out. Mm-hmm. And I believe it was something like 800 letters in 6 months that I wrote. Something like that. Something like ridiculous like that, because I spent so much time writing letters, talking about what I was seeing in the prison, and just constantly doing this like reassuring, like, let it be, man, like it's all gonna be good, man. It's like trying to apply positivity to the situation, because this situation was so completely out of control and foreign to me. Like it was just like this constant feeling dumbstruck about everything. And so a lot of time writing to my family members, reassuring them that I was okay. Because you don't know anything about prison. Like, my family doesn't know what it's like to be in prison. I didn't know what it was like to be in prison. I was in prison. I still didn't know what the hell was going on, mm-hmm. and what it was like to be in prison. I was still there, like, getting over the shock of even just being there. And so I would tell them about funny things that I was seeing, like how Italian MTV is similar or different to American MTV, or how hilarious Homer Simpson sounds in Italian, like that kind of stuff. Like, but always just this constant mantra of like, it's gonna be okay, like it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be figured out. Who knows? Like I could be free tomorrow, type of thing, and that was always reassuring. I learned Italian. I got a grammar note, like I got a grammar book, mm-hmm. and then I proceeded to spend hours writing a kind of sentence in different grammatical forms. Mm-hmm. So I go to the store, I went to the store, I thought about going to the store, maybe I went to the store, maybe not. I had gone to the store, but then I went to the zoo, like that kind of stuff. And and just meticulously going through that, because I was very much at a disadvantage by not understanding the language. Nobody in prison spoke English. There was one guard who spoke fairly good English, but I didn't have her at my disposal in order to speak with people, and that was a very big disadvantage, especially when part of the problem and what landed me in my mind in prison in the first place was because I was not making myself understood. I was at that point still thinking that it was largely my fault for being there because of the interrogation. And it was only after I was convicted that I realized that no matter what, the police were planning on arresting me in that interrogation anyway, no matter what came out of it. So, yeah, kept thinking that I would be let out, and kept having that slammed in my face. Just no. Which is just stunning. It's hard to explain it, to just have everything fall apart and to have nothing. It didn't make sense. And then being constantly reassured that it's going to be okay by everyone. Like, it's going to be okay. Yeah, don't just wait. Which then leads to being charged. But then, my lawyers were like, okay, no, but it's good that you're charged, because now we can look at what evidence they have and show them that they're wrong. And so I was like, okay, I guess it's a good thing that I'm charged then, okay. And one of the things that was pretty incredible just about this particular case is that what my defense had at their disposal was not, like, we had to constantly fight to have access to the evidence. And that was devastating to our defense, not having access to the evidence. So, and when I say that, like, when they say that there's Meredith's DNA on the knife, they tell us that. And they're like, this is the evidence, Meredith's DNA on the knife. And when I say to my lawyers that's impossible, they say, okay, well, you say that, but can you show us, like, your actual data so we can see if you're making the right decision or not? Because we have our own medical independent experts, and if we have access to that data, then we can also check it and see if there was an error made. No, impossible. No error. Impossible. No, you can't see that. You don't need to see that. We're professionals. We know what we're doing. And we had to fight for years to have access to data, simply so we could actually look at the evidence. And indeed, that's ultimately what ended up happening, why I was convicted. Like, why was I convicted? Because the first court took for granted that the police were right. And that's it. So when the police say that there's Meredith's DNA on the knife, there has to be Meredith's DNA on the knife. And when the police say that this homeless man has a reliable witness testimony, he has a reliable witness testimony. And when the police say that they did not do anything that could have contaminated the bra clasp that was associated with Raphael, that means that that's right. And when the police say that I must have cleaned up the crime scene because that's the only explanation for how I could have participated in the murder and then left no trace of myself at the crime scene, as if I had gone and cleaned up all traces of me, but left all of the blood and all of the DNA evidence against the actual perpetrator. And that, we're just going to take it for granted that that's the case. And so it was just this constantly taking for granted that the police were right about things when they were blatantly wrong. Just blatantly wrong. Evidence of them having dirty gloves when they were collecting evidence. Evidence of them, doing the examination of the DNA on the knife and having results that said that they were unreliable and then saying, no, they're reliable. The machine says it's not reliable evidence, and then they just are like, it's reliable. The blatant misconduct in this case is startling. And I think that's one of the main reasons why it's such this controversial topic, is because people don't really want to believe or can't really believe that it's so startlingly blatant. This meticulous grooming of the evidence so that it would fit a scenario. And it all happened because they decided to arrest me before my mom could come to Perugia. They were going to arrest me that night because they knew my mom was coming the following day. And when they finally did actually have evidence, and it all pointed to another person, well, by then they had told the world that they had solved the crime. And by God, they were going to say that they had solved the crime. And that is what happened. Just this constant, covering up of mistakes, and this so incredibly blatant, disregard of defensive rights, this presumption of guilt, this suspect-oriented investigation, this unwillingness to admit that they were wrong, that continues to this day. It's really curious. I wish people looked more into the investigators. What could have motivated them? What's their history? What's their experience? People have looked into the prosecutor, the star prosecutor a little bit, and found out that he was, had issues with abuse of office and had issues with really relying on theories that involved satanic rituals, and was just this superstitious guy who had these very pinpointed ideas. And so people have looked into that, but people haven't looked into the investigators who were also a part of it. They just there's this general sense of the authorities are untouchable. We don't actually acknowledge them as people, and that they are capable of making mistakes, and that's a mistake. It's a mistake to assume that. Of course, it all derives from the fact that for society to function, we have to have faith in certain parties. And when we think of the criminal justice system, most of us put ourselves in the position of the victim of a crime, right? We want a criminal justice system that responds to that need to make it so that people don't want to commit crime, and then when they do, they are punished. But people don't often think of themselves being the victim of the criminal justice system and of the crimes of people who represent that. And that is what is also an issue here. This is an issue for why people would go along with the conspiracy theory sort of thing, because how else could this have happened if there isn't some reason for it? Like, how else could this have happened if there isn't some conspiracy behind it, or if there isn't some rationale that we aren't being given the exact information about, and she must know something, or how could she ever accuse an innocent person when, if she's innocent? And it's like, if you really want the answer to those questions, the answers are out there. Like, people have studied this. I am not the first person to have falsely confessed to something because I was psychologically tortured by people. And then it's like, great, now I get to tell people, like, try to explain to people what it's like to be psychologically tortured. Good luck, Amanda. Like, good luck trying to explain that to people, especially when you're being labeled a murderer. Like, no one's ever going to believe me. Like,